projects are all about teaching a range of different content and skills through cross-curricular project-based learning. So as opposed to having discrete subjects, we teach lots of different skills and content at the same time that accumulates to a product and an assessment that then has an authentic audience. So we've had projects that are cross-curricular, such as history, humanities, art and photography. Our first project was bookmaking, and we made a series of illustrations based on places around Penwith, and we've done filmmaking, and currently we're working on a history project that incorporates history and art and the links between the history surrounding particular paintings. Immediately, real projects make students more independent in both their independent thinking skills, but also their motivation to complete things, because they know that what they are doing, what they are making, has a point and it has an outcome. And through that outcome and through that product that they're driven to create, you teach them the skills that they need that are part of the assessment process. So as opposed to having lessons where it's all about recall of information, it's much more about teaching the information, delivering the information, but having a specific assessment point that's a product where they apply that information in a new creative way. So they apply what they've already learnt. It definitely is important to draw upon the other curriculum areas. So, for example, the High Tech High students have given me a great idea for a maths project that's all about designing and making a food truck that would be a link between it could be graphic design, food technology and maths, where they have to manage a budget, they have to think about how they're going to actually have a certain amount of money and use it in a certain way. I think it's about being creative with identifying what skills, what content they need to learn, but actually how they can then apply it to the world of work. So the food project truck, the food truck is something that is, they're going to teach them skills not only about maths but also about how to manage money in the real world.
Why do you think you could have done this?
You start off thinking about the outcome. So the bigger picture is, what do we want the students to learn? What do they need to learn? And then you work backwards to think, okay, this is how I'm going to teach it, these are the resources I need, and you actually start at the end. So you think about the core skills, the core content, how the product can work, and you plan backwards in the sense of what do they need to do to get to that end point. And it's actually advised that teachers carry out the project themselves as much as they possibly can, so they know whether it works or not when they're teaching it. This year, the way we've taught it is that there'll be an entry point, so some form of introduction to a theme, and this is what you're going to do, this is what your outcome is going to be. So they know from that first lesson what they are doing. So from the very first lesson, they know what they're working towards, and every specific lesson we have is structured and has a clear relevance to the outcome. So for example, when we did the book project, we did lessons on looking at the history of Cornwall and Penwith, and they knew that was specifically to inform what would later become the information in their books, or to inform their creative writing. And I think that's been one of the majorly successful elements of the teaching and learning, because the students are always very clear about, I'm doing this because they know exactly what they're learning and why they're learning it. So from the very beginning, the students have been very reflective in terms of self-assessment, peer assessment and critique. And that's that type of language and way of working has been something that's been embedded from the very beginning of the projects. So getting used to the idea of drafting, redrafting, using peer critique and self-assessment, and even the idea of metacognition to enhance the learning but also enhance their reflection, and doing it in a really deep way. So not just, I thought this went well. It's constantly pushing them to say, well, why? How could it be better? What did you like about it? What could you improve? And then using that within peer critique as well. And in terms of the exhibition of their work, we did a huge exhibition recently that virtually took over the main part of the school. We had over 120 parents come into school, and having that authentic audience and knowing their work is going to be shown, they took a huge amount of care over how it was exhibited. And I think they've learnt a lot about presentation skills for the future, and I think it will help them in other subject areas across the school. If I was going to summarise real projects in a short, succinct way, I would summarise it as being an opportunity for students to learn the skills and content they need in a fun, engaging way, in both independently and in groups, that draws on real aspects of life and then applies it to a real outcome. It makes them really much more motivated and engaged in what they're doing.